Statistical, mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out that it's Bitcoin.
You're talking about the allocation commitment, 10% or so of each quarter. No, I'm actually not surprised. I'm actually surprised that it took Block this long to do this because Jack Dorsey, and especially, I think that Jack Dorsey and Michael Saylor have somewhat of a close relationship and have had this relationship for quite some time. I know that Block and Jack Dorsey has been quite intimate and aware of the entire blueprint that Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy has been promoting for corporate America in particular for the last year to year and a half. I believe that he's been somewhat involved in that. And so I know that when it comes to publicly traded companies, it's very complex. It's more complex than Michael Saylor situation because Michael Saylor had the majority voting rights. He did not have the majority ownership ultimately, but he did have the majority of voting rights, if my memory serves me correctly. So he had the ability to do things, in not so much of a convoluted way as your regular or typical publicly traded company might have to deal with, because extraordinarily laborious, it's bureaucratic, there's a lot of paperwork, a lot of hoops you have to jump through. It's like a year and a half process to actually get approval to do something like, we're going to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. For a publicly traded company, guys, it's just crazy. And the reason I know this somewhat intimately is because I went through the entire process from I would say late 1999 to all the way to 2021. I went through the entire process of going public. And at the time, we made the decision to go public in 1999. It was a multi-year process. I'm talking about paperwork, reams of paperwork that would just blow your mind. And the cost, the legal cost, it was just, by the end of the process, like, I just felt like I made the biggest mistake of my life. And ultimately, I did in a way, because the IPO never happened. The Twin Towers got hit. It killed the IPO market. And we ultimately had to shelve our multi-year plan, spending almost $20 million to go public, and not being able to go public because the entire IPO market just basically went not only zero, negative zero after the Twin Towers got hit. It just wasn't going to happen. And so I had to shelve that idea. But just going through that process made me realize, like, this is just something that I didn't even want to deal with or even be a part of. It's ridiculous. And so from that point of view, I'm not surprised. I'm surprised that it took so long, but in another way, I'm not surprised because I don't think Jack Dorsey has the same voting rights capability or right. I don't think he had the same voting rights as Michael Saylor had. So, but I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see that whatever processes he had to go through and finally get it done, that they're now committed to 10%. And I think this is going to be a growing theme. I think that it's just starting. I think that we're going to see a world in the next few years. This is not going to be 10 years down the line. We're going to see a world in the next few years in which almost every single company has Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And the majority of them are going to have it in the form of the spot Bitcoin ETFs. That's fine. But they're going to have Bitcoin exposure. It's going to not be okay. Game theory is going to kick in, and it's going to not be okay to not have Bitcoin. And if you reveal a report that doesn't have Bitcoin on your balance sheet, your stock dives. And if you reveal a report that your Bitcoin holdings increased, your stock rises. I think we're moving into a world like that. We'll see. Oliver, a Twitter friend has 1/3 silver, 1/3 gold, 1/3 Bitcoin. They believe they're being safer that way, and say they already have over 1 Bitcoin, so they'll be fine as we hyper Bitcoinize. He couldn't change his mind to move more heavily into Bitcoin. What would you tell him? I wouldn't really tell him much. Now, if I were forced to say something, I would say this. I'm like, look, at least you've got the 3 best things that represent real, true money today. And that's cool. But I would say that I would try to encourage a person to say, look, every error has its true, real money. And for a period of time in history, real money was tools. Real money used to serve as a way to get your food and your meat. So they were spears and arrows and flint stones, and they served as valuable forms of money. And there was another era that things were your animals, your sheep or your cows, your calves, and things of that nature. For a period of time, that was the best money to have. Cattlers were the wealthiest people, and so forth and so on. And then things kept getting more refined. They went to things like metals. We went through the metal period of money. And for a while, your metals served as a better money than a cow because you could divide a piece of metal better than you could divide a cow. Later, a piece of paper became a better form of money because it was more easily divided than a piece of metal. So if you think about it, piece of metal became better than a piece of cow because a piece of metal could be divided and shared and sent between each other far more easily than dividing and sharing a piece of a cow or sheep or a camel or what have you. And then a piece of paper was more easily sent and shared amongst ourselves than dividing a piece of metal. And now a digital unit, as in the form of Bitcoin, is more easily divided and sent instantaneously in the ether amongst each other than a piece of paper. And so money has historically been an evolving thing for the human species. And if you do not change, history has proven that if you do not change and adopt the new transition, you actually go to the bottom of the earth. You go to the bottom of the world. As an example of this, China used to rule the world as far as trade. They had the biggest world trade surpluses in the world. They dominated commerce in the world, China. And this was during the time where silver was the money for the world. And they dominated world trade. They dominated commerce. I think their biggest product for the world was opium, and silver was the predominant money for the world at the time. But up comes this new metal that was harder, scarcer. So it was harder to produce more, scarcer, and it started to catch on. China never wanted to adopt this new version of money that everyone seemed to growingly start to become excited about because it was more scarce, because more, it was harder to produce more. And because China had a grip on world commerce, they had the top spot. Why does the top need to adopt something that's not quite the top yet? And so they resisted this change. And I don't think that the way their economy was structured at the time, that changing would have been beneficial for them. So they were sort of locked into maintaining silver as their major money. I'm sure you know what happened. Gold was the better money, and the better money always wins ultimately. And China, as a result of never being able to or never being willing to move to the new standard of the hardest, scarcest money, they went from being number one in the world, the top of the world, to being absolutely at the bottom. And guess how long they stayed at the bottom of the world? Guess how long they stayed the poorest, the most dejected, the most depressed, the most conquered, the most taken empire in history? Over 1,000 years. They lost 1,000 years because they refused to move from the weaker form of money to the stronger form of money, silver to gold. We're in that transitional period now, as far as I'm concerned, with Bitcoin. It is the fastest growing asset the world has ever known. It's the fastest growing currency the world has ever known. It's the hardest money the world has ever known. It's the scarcest asset the world has ever known. So I want you to think about all of these things. It is number one in virtually every single category you can name. It is undeniable. Its force, its power, its speed, its ascent to the top is rivaled by nothing else human beings have ever seen. If there is any signal that this is the next thing, you've got it right here. And it is coming to take all. And if you don't adopt that and you stay with ancient metals that were considered money 6,000, 9,000 years ago, silver's 9,000 years old. Gold is 6,000 years old. Come on. It doesn't fit in a digital world. We're increasingly moving all of our entire existence to a digital world. Your photos are digital, your mail is digital, your music is digital, your movies are digital, your relationship with me is digital. I mean, everything is moving there. Gold, the analog, can't move to the digital. You know, when you look at it from that point of view, it becomes very clear what the next powerhouse is. And it's Bitcoin. History has proven that if you're not one of the ones that sees that early enough, you go from the top of the world to the bottom of the world and you lose 1,000 years. The other thing that I would do is I would do this. Let me show you. I have probably orange pilled more people by doing this than anything else. What I've done is I've taken charts and I've gone to something like, let's go to the 5-month chart. And we can take these things off here that I've written before. All right, we can do the 5-month chart or something like that. What we can do is we can take the life of Bitcoin and we can price everything else in Bitcoin. So if we say, look, instead of using the US dollar as the unit of account, let's use what potentially can replace the US dollar as the unit of account. So the way you do that is simple, guys. I'm going to show you how to do this, right? The way you do this, I'm going to close this down, make it all chart. I'm going to do the symbol for you. Let's price the S&P 500 in Bitcoin. So you do SPX as an example, slash, you want to use SATS USD. Now the slash is important. The SATS USD is important to get the full history. If you use BTC, you'll still get it, but you won't get the full history. If you use SATS USD, you get Bitcoin from its first birth. You do something like that, and you show them like, look, dude, this is what the S&P 500, the strongest, most powerful stock market in the world, the performance gauge for every money manager, every hedge fund, every mutual fund, every pension fund, every professional in the industry is trying to keep up, to stay flat or outperform the S&P. Well, look at what the S&P is doing against Bitcoin. It is a shit coin against Bitcoin. And if you were to show them this, it will start to dawn on them over and over again. You just keep showing them. Just have them pick anything. What else do you want to look at? You want to look at the NASDAQ? The NASDAQ has been the best performing asset class over the last 10 years, but only if you ignore Bitcoin, right? So let's take a look at the NASDAQ against Bitcoin, all right? So then I would do this, okay? Let's do NDX. That's the NASDAQ 100. That's the best of the NASDAQ. That slash is important. You see that slash there? And then you do SATS USD. That's important, but you have to press enter on TradingView. Enter. You can't look for it. You got to press enter. And now you have the best performing asset class over the past 10 years out of all asset classes if you ignore Bitcoin. And this is what NASDAQ is doing against Bitcoin. It's a shit coin. Do you see this? Good. I'm very glad you can hear me. Not everyone can. I don't know why some people can and some people can't. I'll have to figure this out, guys, but I apologize about that. But do you see, this is what the NASDAQ is doing against Bitcoin. So another way of looking at this, guys, is to look at it like this. If you are holding NASDAQ stocks instead of Bitcoin, this is what you're experiencing. If you were holding Bitcoin instead of NASDAQ stocks, this is what you were doing. You would flip it. Let me show you. This is what your experience is. But you see how I don't get all the way back to 2011 when I use BTC. So that's why SATS USD is the thing. But this is your experience holding Bitcoin instead of the NASDAQ. This is your experience holding the NASDAQ instead of Bitcoin. As they become more acquainted with pricing in Bitcoin, you realize, why should I be holding something else? So we can take things like, guys, let me show you this. Let me show you how interesting this is. Let's take Berkshire Hathaway. Okay, here's Berkshire Hathaway. Look at the incredible performance of this thing. Now, I have a lot to say about this. You can't produce a chart like this unless you're fake. I don't want it. That's a very deep rabbit hole to go into. You can't have a chart like this over this period of time unless it's fake. This is not real, guys. You can't produce this in real life without cheating. So that's a deep rabbit hole. I'm not going to go there right now, but I'm just telling you, it doesn't exist in the real world. This is not natural. It's sort of like saying, look, birds don't fly upside down like that. This is not natural in the real world. That's a fake bird. Okay? This is a fake bird, guys. You can't produce this unless you're connected, you're cheating, you have no one else can produce this. All right? So it's a bird that flies upside down. It's fake. Okay? But okay, with all of its fakeness, with all of its, that no one else could ever produce this. Let's price this in Bitcoin. So we're going to take Berkshire Hathaway and we're going to do BRK.A. That's a symbol. That slash is important. Then you do SATS USD. Don't forget that. And you press enter. What's better to hold? Do you see this? I don't care what the cheating was, what was produced, because you're closer to the money printer than anybody else, because you get the first call from governments and whatever. It still doesn't matter. Bitcoin still makes you look like a freaking shitcoin. Do you understand? Do you see this? I'm not making this up. When you start to price everything that you hold dear in Bitcoin, you begin to realize, why am I fooling around with anything else? Now, some people say, well, Oliver, NVIDIA outperformed Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been impressive. NVIDIA outperformed Bitcoin. Well, let's take a look at NVIDIA. I have to be honest with you. I am a holder of Bitcoin. My traders and I have held Bitcoin all the way back from 2010. Let me show you where we got into Bitcoin. I will show you this. We got into Bitcoin right here. So in this price area right there. Now, the price at the time wasn't down at $2.50 to $3 like you see here, because NVIDIA split. We went in at a pre-split price of $9.50. Split adjusted price is about $3, $4 or so. Anyway, we've had a nice run in NVIDIA. As impressive as this is, all-time new highs, so forth and so on, let's take a look at NVIDIA against Bitcoin. NVDA / remember the slash, SATS USD. You have to press enter. You can't, if you look for it in this list, it doesn't work. You have to press enter to get it. Okay? And here is your performance. Here is NVIDIA's performance against Bitcoin. Now, I have to admit, NVIDIA has been very impressive because for the most part, NVIDIA hasn't made a significant low since 2017? That's extraordinarily impressive. This is one of the 2017. This is we did a slight low in January 21, but this is extraordinarily impressive, extraordinarily impressive, where for years you do not get a significant low against Bitcoin. But still, I wouldn't say this should be called success. Do you understand? That's not success. It's impressive. You know what it's like? It's like NVIDIA, guys, is one of the least dirtiest shirts in your closet, right? The shirts are, Bitcoin's the clean thing. Every other shirt is dirty. So, but there are some shirts that are dirtier than others. Well, NVIDIA is dirty against Bitcoin, but it's less dirty than others. That's how I would look at it. They're all dirty. This is less dirty, but it's dirty too. That's not a success. That is not the picture of success against Bitcoin. Just more impressive as a failure against Bitcoin. So I hope you understand that. So when you start to show every person that you care about and just say, look, let's just look at everything in Bitcoin. And you keep sending them this. I've had the most success at orange pilling people by just sending them charts priced in Bitcoin. And let's not start with the US dollar. So you start to say Dixie is the US dollar, right? So Dixie, Sats, USD. Remember, you can't look for it. You have to press enter. DXY/Sats USD, press enter. And you say, look, when you are saving money, what you call money, the US dollar, instead of saving in Bitcoin, this is your experience. This is literally what you're putting your family through. Do you understand? When you decide, I'm not going to put it in Bitcoin, I'm going to save for my kids' future. I'm going to save for their college fund. I'm going to save for retirement. This is what you're experiencing when you're saving in cash. But then the person will say, well, Oliver, I'm saving not in cash, I'm saving in the stock market. And then I say, well, okay, SPY, Sats, USD. Now, this is what you're experiencing. And you're not saving in cash, you're saving in the stock market instead of saving in Bitcoin. This is what you're putting your family through. This is what you're experiencing. They say, well, Oliver, I'm not saving. I have mostly NASDAQ stocks, Apple, NVIDIA, Amazon, Google. All right. Well, then you show them the NASDAQ and you say, all right, NDX, Sats, USD. Instead of putting your money in Bitcoin and putting it in Google, Amazon, NVIDIA, Apple, Microsoft, instead of doing that, you're doing that instead of Bitcoin. Well, this is what you're experiencing. This is what you're putting your family through by putting your money in those things versus Bitcoin. I'm not making this number up. I'm showing you everything priced in Bitcoin. If you were to flip this, instead of putting it in the NASDAQ, the S&P, cash, bonds, or whatever, this is what you'd be experiencing. And you just do Sats, USD. So what picture do you want? What do you want to put your family through? All the ones declining? Or do you want to put it through all the ones rising? You want to put it through this one. I want my family going through this. I don't want them going through the reverse. And so because I'm a market player, I can more clearly communicate to people through the market, right? And show them with these charts, like, look, what you're looking at everything through the wrong glasses. You're looking at it through the eyes of the USD. The glasses called the United States dollar does not show you the truth. The glasses of Bitcoin show you the truth. So you have to change these. And you've got to put on Bitcoin's glasses. Now look at everything through these glasses, and your world will explode. You'll see a truth that the US dollar glasses, they were hiding from you, lying to you, showing you something false. So let me give an example of how the US dollar lies to you. So when I look at NVIDIA, this is NVIDIA looked at through the eyes of the US dollar. That is impressive. Just look at that thing. Do you see how impressive that is? That's what the US dollar shows me. So do you understand? I have the US dollar glasses on and like, whoa, that's very nice. And I say, well, let me look at it through Bitcoin glasses. All right. So I'm going to take these glasses, right? But let me look through the Bitcoin glasses and see what Bitcoin says about it. And so I take the same stock, all right, NVDA, SATS, USD, instead of just USD, SATS USD. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's a completely different picture. Which one's telling me the truth? Bitcoin's telling you the truth. That's the one that no human beings can touch. That's the one that can't be influenced, manipulated, controlled. That's the one that no one sets the price for. That's the one that no one can print at will. So the US dollar is the manipulated one that is manipulating a picture for you that is not real. That it's little Oz behind the curtain, moving the things and saying, let's make it look like a beautiful city, an emerald city, and it's not. Right? Which one you gonna trust? The one that's controlled by a few white men in a back room? Yeah, they're all white. Or the one that's controlled by no man on planet Earth, but is accessible to every man on planet Earth? This changes your life, guys. This changes the whole way you view everything when you start pricing everything in Bitcoin. Guys, I've been winding down from 22 homes. I wish I could say it was 21. That would be a cool number. From 21 homes. And it has been amazing for me to see the price changes in Bitcoin terms. So let me give you an example of this. In 2020, I'm in Colombia right now. I'm in Medellin, Colombia. What you're seeing here, I'm in Medellin, Colombia, right? This place went for, in 2020, it went for 250,000 US dollars. Little mini penthouse here, 4 balconies, 6 bedrooms if you count the maid's quarters and so forth and so on, right? That's here. 250,000, 2020. Today, this goes for over 1.1 million, right? Things have exploded here. But in Bitcoin terms, so the US dollar picture is 250,000 to 1.1 million. Wow, that's the US dollar glasses. Do you understand me? Do you understand? When I put the Bitcoin glasses on, should we do the math? I'll do the math in front of you. Let me do the math in front of you. Let me see if I can do this. Let's do the math together. Let me see if I can get this up for you so I can do the math for you together. We will do the math together. What we want to do is Bitcoin was 8. So we're going to divide 250,000 divided by 8,500, right? The property was worth 29.4 Bitcoin. But today, the property in US dollar denominated terms, today the property in US dollar denominated terms is like 1.1 million, right? So let's do that. But the price of Bitcoin is 63,000. So let's call it 63,000, right? So let's do it. 1,100,000 divided by 63,000. And it's 17 Bitcoin. I want you to think about this. In Bitcoin terms, this property declined in value. Do you understand this? We went from 29.4 Bitcoin to 17.4 Bitcoin. Think about that. I lost value in Bitcoin. It used to be worth 29 Bitcoin. Do you know what 29 Bitcoin versus 17 Bitcoin is? A big difference. I would love to have 29 versus 17 Bitcoin. That's a huge difference. All right. As a matter of fact, let's do the difference. So 29. So think about this. 29.4 Bitcoin minus 17.4. That's a difference of 12 Bitcoin times $63,000. This is how much I lost. I lost $756,000 not holding Bitcoin and holding this place instead. Think about that. I went down in value in Bitcoin terms, but in USD denominated terms, I went from 250 to 1.1 million. So which story is more real? 250,000 to 1.1 million, or the Bitcoin story? I lost $756,000. The real story is that I lost 756,000 because that's the one that is not controlled by anyone. That's the one that can't be manipulated, stolen in any way whatsoever. It's crazy, guys. It's just freaking crazy. That's the bottom line, guys. So, like, when you start to price things in Bitcoin, your life changes, your entire view changes, your desires change, your approach to everything changes. You start to become more responsible with even your fiat money. You start to realize how stupid certain purchases are. When you start to price in terms of Bitcoin, you become what the system doesn't want you to become: an astute manager of your own shit, your own wealth. So I encourage everyone to do that. You can use TradingView to do that. Use Sats USD. Remember, when you're pricing in Bitcoin, you put the item that you want to see how Bitcoin is performed against first. If it's NVIDIA, if it's Apple, AAPL. If it's Microsoft, MSFT. If it's Tesla, TSLA / Sats USD. Don't look for it. You got to press enter and let it come up, and then you can see it. And you'll realize that there's not many things on planet Earth that have done better. In fact, you'll realize there's nothing on planet Earth that's done better against Bitcoin. And the deeper and deeper you go down the rabbit hole, you realize that will never change. It will never change because everything else is infinite, and Bitcoin is the only thing in the universe that is finite. So it can't be another way. The thing that gets a lot of people trapped is, well, it's been going on for 15 years, Oliver. I'm late. So I'm just scared when I do it, it's gonna reverse on me. It's like, you haven't gone deep enough down the rabbit hole to understand this will never reverse. It can't. It's an impossibility for it to reverse. If anything, it's going to accelerate. Not only is it not going to reverse or change, it's going to accelerate because it's the only thing that is provably finite. Everything else can be manufactured, produced more by man. Everything from dollars to bonds to stocks to even gold. Gold is infinite in the universe. It's just, is it profitable enough at $2,000 an ounce to mine more. But let gold go to $3,000 an ounce, and man, you'll find a lot more machinery. They blow the dust off the machinery. Oh, let's fire up these mines that we closed off because they weren't profitable at 2,000, but they're profitable at 3,000. And you'll get a truckload more of gold coming on plant above ground into human hands. You can't do that with Bitcoin. It's provably finite. It's provably, mathematically provably scarce. And it's the only thing in the universe that is that way. Everything else against that will measure lower over time forever. When you understand finances from this point of view, you realize because you can make more of everything and you can't make more of Bitcoin. Bitcoin will never stop rising against everything else that you can make more of. It's mathematically impossible. That's the certainty in it. Because you can't make more of it, and because you can make more of everything else will decline against Bitcoin, which is another way of saying Bitcoin will go up forever. It literally is an impossibility for it not to. So many people say, well, Oliver, please stop talking ridiculous. How can you say it will never change? And I'm like, dude, you still don't get it. I'm not making this up. This is not a prediction. This is mathematical certainty. Whatever you can produce more of will go down in value. Whatever you can't produce more of will go up in value. I didn't make that up. I didn't make up mathematics. That's mathematical certainty, people. It's not an opinion. It's not a projection. It's literally mathematics. And no human being can prevent that. Now, some people say, well, Oliver, what if they create something else that way? No, you can't create something like this. You can only discover it. And discoveries are only once. You can't discover fire twice. What about discovering the wheel twice? There's no wheel 2.0. There's no fire 3.5. Oh, version 3.5 of fire. No, discoveries happen once. Bitcoin was discovered. It wasn't created. It was like, okay, Satoshi Nakamoto took SHA-256. He took the hash algorithm. He took this, the cryptographic, security. That he put these things together, and oh my God, what the fuck is this? Shit. It's digital scarcity. It's freaking Bitcoin. What do I name it? But it wasn't an invention. Just because someone took ingredients and found something with those ingredients doesn't mean that it was invented. The same way people took some aluminum, rubber, glass, and created this contraption called the microscope. And with this contraption, they discovered, whoa, there's moving things that we've never seen before called atoms. What the heck? Did they invent atoms just because it was the first time they realized they existed? Was the person who put the microscope together for the first time using basic materials? Could he claim to have invented what he saw through the microscope? No. Can Satoshi claim to have invented what he saw through the network? Digital scarcity? No. Bitcoin is not an invention. It's a discovery. And discoveries happen once. And this is why I'm so adamant about the fact that you can't have another thing. This is not like a company where there's another company. Oh, it's a bookstore. There's another bookstore down the street. Oh, it's a pizza shop. There's another pizza shop down the street. You can't have, that's not this. This is digital scarcity cannot be man-made. If scarcity is man-made, then it's not scarce because it can be changed by the man who made it. You understand? Scarcity, true scarcity, is discovered by man, but is not invented by man. And this is true digital scarcity. It always existed. It just took us to evolve to the place where we could put something together to see it. Oh, whoa. Never thought this was here, but here it is, digital scarcity. And that might be going a bit too deep for a lot of you, but know this. Bitcoin is mathematically designed to increase your life every 4 years, forever, to make you and your family more valuable, to make you worth more, to make you more meaningful. Every 4 years of your life, mathematically guaranteed, provably mathematically, until you die and beyond. What everything else is designed to do, the US dollar, the Argentinian peso, the Japanese yen, is to make your life worse, harder, every 4 years until you die. In fact, every year, the United States tells you in your face that we strive for a 2% inflation rate every year. Now, we're not there yet. We're at 4%, but we strive to make your life harder by 2%. So what they're saying is every year of your life, what we're trying to do is to make it 2% harder. So that every year of your life until you die, what we're striving to do is to have you work 2% more for the same shit that you worked for last year. You worked 100 hours for this last year. You're going to work 102 hours for this next year. And every year, you're going to work 2% more for the same shit. You're not going to get anything extra. You're just going to work more for the same thing every year until you die. So every year gets worse. They tell you this in your face. We strive to take 2% of your life from you every year until you die. They tell it to you. They say it to you. 2% inflation rate. Flip it around. Look at it the proper way. My life becomes 2% harder every year until I die. That's what you're striving to make my life. And I have no control over how you make my life. So you can make my life 2%. And I have no say in that. Until now, Bitcoin. Bitcoin says, I strive to make your life exponentially bigger, more powerful, more valuable, wealthier every 4 years of your life. And you can say every year of your life, because when you average out the 4-year exponential rise over the 4 years, it can range anywhere from 50% more to 250% more, depending upon where you are in the cycle. So Bitcoin flips everything. It's designed to go the other way. It's like a seesaw. Bitcoin has no top because fiat currencies have no bottom. They will decline in purchasing power by 2% to 12% every year until you die. So because they have no bottom, and Bitcoin is designed to be the opposite, Bitcoin has no top. It's the other side of the seesaw. So fiat currency drops, Bitcoin rises. It's literally designed to be the exact opposite. And when you understand this, you realize, why should I hold the thing that is designed to go down in value on me forever? Just take a look. That is the US dollar against Bitcoin. That is your life. That is what you're working for. That is what you're giving your life to. That is what you wake up every single day and give your life, your energy, your effort, your time, your knowledge, your skill, your information. You give that to another man. You give that to a system. And in exchange for that, which is who you are, that which you are, you give it. And in exchange for giving that away, giving your life away, who you are, what you know, what your skill level is, your time, your effort, you give that away. And in exchange, you receive this. And this is what they do with your sacrifice. They debase it. But I say, why not make their fake money, give your life for it, but quickly switch it here. Why not? This is the one that's never broken a promise. This is the one in the last 10 years never been down, never halted, never hacked, never broke a promise. Exponentially higher every 4 years, mathematically guaranteed to become more scarce and therefore more valuable every 4 years of your life until you die. And no human being, no company, no organization, no country, no nation state can ever stop it, ever. I say, give your life to this now. My name is Oliver Velez, and I am your 13%er Bitcoiner. Be safe out there, and until next time. Boom!